Hello and welcome back to another edition of Goji's Thrift Box. Who will be coming out of the Thrift Box today, and what story will they tell? Let's find out.
The Transformers will return after these messages.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce Cosmos. Cosmos was part of the second wave of Transformers that were released in 1985. Cosmos was a space vehicle, specifically a flying saucer. His Generation 1 tech spec bio, as written by Bob Budiansky, reads, "Lonely in outer space, relieves boredom by scaring humans by hovering over their backyards at night or zigzagging through meteor showers. Can achieve Earth orbit, even go to moon and back with enough fuel. Acts as communications satellite. Optical sensors can see a bicycle at 600 miles. Has pinpoint accuracy, high-powered particle beam. Not well suited to function on ground as robot." In the Marvel comic, he was introduced in Transformers number 17, in a story called The Smelting Pool. He was a member of an Autobot resistance team on Cybertron that was led by Blaster, and came to Earth via the space bridge. In the cartoon, he made his debut in the episode Megatron's Master Plan. Like many of the second season Transformers on the cartoon, there was no explanation of exactly where Cosmos came from. But since space bridge technology also existed in the cartoon at that time, in my headcanon I just assumed that he and the other season 2 Transformers came to Earth via that method as well. In the show, Cosmos was voiced by Michael McConaughey, doing a loose impression of classic film actor Peter Lorre.
Cosmos, take action.
Like what?
If I knew, I'd do it myself.
I guess anything is better than nothing.
Well, any luck?
No.
Peter Lorre's distinctive voice and affect was mimicked many times by many different voice actors for many different cartoon characters over the years. The original Generation 1 Cosmos toy was part of the Minibots range. Unlike the first series Minibots, who were all cars, the second series were mostly specialized vehicles that opened up different storytelling possibilities within the cartoon. Cosmos remains an often seen character throughout Season 2 of the cartoon, making an appearance in 9 episodes. That was reduced to just 2 episodes in the post-Transformers the Movie Season 3, due to his toy being discontinued by the line. Like many original Generation 1 Transformers, Cosmos has been reimagined and reinvented several times over the years. In 2006, Transformers artist Don Figueroa designed a brand new Cosmos toy, but that ultimately was unproduced. However, in 2009, Cosmos did return in the Transformers Universe line as a Legends-class figure, whose saucer design was sleeker and had a much lower profile than the Generation 1 version. Another new Cosmos toy was released in 2014 as part of the Generations line during the Thrilling 30 series. This Cosmos came with a partner called Payload, a tiny space shuttle that could transform into a Target Master-like weapon. The newest Cosmos toy was released in 2022 as part of the Walmart exclusive Transformers Legacy Velocitron Speedia 500 collection. This Cosmos was a larger version of his original Generation 1 toy, with better detail and articulation than the original. Unfortunately, the Speedia 500 toy was short-packed to only 1 per case, and quickly became a hard-to-find scalper's delight. But recently Hasbro announced that that version of Cosmos would see a re-release in different packaging, but probably not until late 2024 or early 2025. The original Generation 1 Minibot had some little ports that could act as his particle beam at the end of his hands. This version does not have that. He has some very large fists at the end of his arms, and you can see there's a little gun sculpted at the end of each arm. So I guess we can use those as the built-in particle beam weapons, since this version doesn't have any actual weapons to hold. His flying saucer form is a very nice update of the Generation 1 saucer. A little sleeker. This is actually modeled after the unproduced Generations design from 2006. He's got a tail fin and a couple of rocket boosters on the back, and a couple of guns up front, giving him a little more offensive capability than the original toy had. Although Cosmos' alt form is not an Earth-based vehicle, it is one very familiar to us Earthlings, thanks to the flying saucer being part of our pop culture consciousness for decades. Reports of disc-shaped flying objects have been sporadically reported since the Middle Ages, with saucer-like spaceships gaining popularity in science fiction art in the 1940s. Flying saucers really shot into public consciousness in 1947, when on June 24th, businessman and aviator Kenneth Arnold claimed that he saw a string of 9 shiny, unidentified flying objects flying past Mount Rainier in Washington state, at speeds that he estimated to be around 1,200 miles per hour. This is generally considered to be the first of the modern era of UFO sightings, with the press quickly picking up on the story and coining the term flying saucer. In 1952, the United States Air Force first created the term unidentified flying object, or UFO, a term that has recently been modified to UAP, unidentified aerial phenomenon. But they'll always be UFOs to me, just like Pluto will always be a planet. In popular culture, the flying saucer became the go-to design when depicting alien life forms, whether they came to Earth as friends or as invaders. One of my personal favorite alien invasion films is Earth vs. the Flying Saucers from 1956, produced by Charles H. Schneer, directed by Fred F. Sears, and featuring special effects by the legendary Ray Harryhausen. Harryhausen's stop-motion effects of flying saucers attacking well-known sites such as the Washington Monument informed many alien invasion sci-fi films that came after it. Very little merchandise has been produced from that Harryhausen classic, but you can find figures of the Saucer Men, as well as models of Harryhausen's flying saucer designs. Not all flying saucers in our pop culture have had evil intent or have even been from outer space. Case in point, the spaceship Jupiter 2 from the television series Lost in Space, a television series created by producer Irwin Allen that debuted in 1965 and ran for 3 seasons. The series follows the interstellar adventures of the space family Robinson, inspired by the novel Swiss Family Robinson. In the then future year 1997, the Robinsons set off on a mission to colonize space in their saucer-shaped ship, the Jupiter 2. The nefarious Dr. Zachary Smith, in the employ of an enemy government, stows away and sabotages the ship, which causes the Jupiter 2 to fly wildly off course, resulting in the family being lost in space. Starting out in black and white but changing to vivid color, the Orphan Camp series has remained in the public consciousness for years, being remade twice, with a much more serious in tone, yet poorly received film in 1998, and a reimagined dramatic series that ran for 3 seasons on Netflix beginning in 2018. The iconic Jupiter 2 has been recreated in both toys and model kits over the years, the most notable being a release by Trendmasters in 1998. Not too long ago, there was a great unboxing and review of that Trendmasters toy on the channel Keep On Collecting, and I'll link to that video in the description of this one. Go check it out. Trendmasters also created some great-looking flying saucer toys for their Mars Attacks toy line back in the 1990s. I covered the Mars Attacks line in a previous edition of Goji's Thrift Box, and I will link to that video at the end of this one. One of my favorite flying saucers isn't from outer space, and it's not even a spaceship. In 1965, Japan's Daiei Studios created Gamera in his debut film Gamera the Giant Monster. The enormous saber-toothed kaiju turtle was meant to be a competitor for Toho's popular Godzilla series. Like Godzilla, Gamera was an atomic-powered monster who battled a variety of other kaiju, both from Earth and from outer space. The original Gamera series lasted for 8 films ending in 1980. And just like the Godzilla series did in the late 1960s and into the 1970s, the Gamera series quickly skewed its viewership toward children, with the giant monster becoming somewhat of a superhero, and as his films proclaimed, the friend to all children. Many of the Gamera films were lampooned, and rightly so, in the comedy series Mystery Science Theater 3000. Among all the kaiju, Gamera has a unique ability, which puts him on my flying saucer list. Like a real-life turtle, Gamera can retract his limbs, head and tail into his shell, replacing his limbs with a sort of jet propulsion that can lift him into the sky and give him the ability to spin and fly like a saucer. After a 15-year hiatus, Gamera returned to film in 1995 with Gamera Guardian of the Universe, the first in a trilogy of new Gamera films, which updated the character and brought a more serious tone to the material. The 1990s Gamera trilogy are considered to be 3 of the best kaiju films of all time. Now you may wonder, once Gamera is up and spinning in the air, exactly how does he get back on the ground? Well, the 90s Gamera trilogy answered that question, and the answer was pretty terrifying. Since the 90s Gamera trilogy, Gamera has returned in the standalone film Gamera the Brave in 2006, as well as the anime television series Gamera Rebirth in 2023. Both Gamera the Brave and Rebirth return to the notion that Gamera is a friend to children, although neither production devolves into the silliness that was quite often seen in the 1960s and 70s Gamera films. Both of these figures are from the Bandai Movie Monster 6-inch figure series. We have the original 1965 Gamera and the 1995 reboot. You can see the difference. The 90s version is a little bit more hunched over, a little bulkier, and his face is a little more expressive, thanks to the evolution in the suit technology between the 30 years. A lot of kaiju fans dismiss the original Gamera films, since most of them had a very silly tone, but as I said, the 1990s reboot trilogy are 3 of the best kaiju films of all time, in my opinion. They really delve into the lore of Gamera. The suit and the effects are much better than the 60s version, and they are very well written. So if you get the chance, I highly recommend checking out Gamera Guardian of the Universe from 1995, Gamera 2 Attack of Legion from 1996, and Gamera 3 Revenge of Iris from 1999. I can't make a video about flying saucers and UFOs without talking about one of my favorite super robots of all time, Grandizer. From the manga and anime series UFO Robot Grandizer, created by Go Nagai. UFO Robot Grandizer is the 3rd leg of a trilogy that started with Mazinger Z and Great Mazinger. In the story of Grandizer, Planet Fleet is under attack by the evil Vegan Empire, their ruthless King Vega, and his fleet of attack saucers and giant robots. Duke Fleet, the last survivor of the royal family, escapes with a powerful Grandizer robot and lands on Earth. He is befriended by Dr. Uman of the Space Science Lab near Mount Fuji, who takes in Duke as his adopted son, and helps him to conceal the mighty Grandizer robot. When the Vegan Empire seeks to invade Earth, Duke Fleet comes out of hiding to defend his adapted planet with the mighty robot. Koji Kabuto, who was the pilot of the giant robot Mazinger Z, is a supporting character in the story of Grandizer. I became aware of Grandizer when he and many other super robots from 1970s Japanese anime were adapted into the Shogun Warriors toy line by Mattel. The Grandizer robot is housed inside a huge saucer-like vehicle that has many offensive capabilities of its own. Duke can launch the robot from the saucer and take on enemy Vegan robots hand-to-hand. The robots of the Vegan Empire usually all have some sort of flying saucer component in their designs. In the Shogun Warriors line, the saucer was available as a vehicle, and Grandizer, whose name was slightly changed to Grandizer for America, replacing the E with an A, was available as a small die-cast figure. A giant 24-inch jumbo Machinda version of Grandizer was released in Europe under the name Goldorak. However, this version was not released in America, making him a grail piece for Shogun Warrior collectors in the West. In recent years, the Japanese company HL Product has acquired the license to make new Grandizer toys, and I have several of them. We have this one, which is about 5 inches tall. This is very reminiscent of the old die-cast Shogun Warrior that Mattel released back in 1978, 1979. He's got a very limited range of articulation, but he is mostly die-cast with some plastic parts, and he does look pretty good. We also have the saucer vehicle, again very reminiscent of the toy that Mattel released in the late 70s, only without all the spring-loaded missile features. This entire saucer is solid die-cast, and the figure inside is a PVC, and he is able to launch from the saucer. Pretty strong spring on that. Once he's launched, you can raise his head up, and his arms move, and that's about it. The bottom portion of the body is a solid piece, so it can lock into the trigger mechanism. Besides these two, I also have a large vinyl figure from HL Product, done in the same style as the old jumbo Machinders, the so-called shampoo bottle figures. The big figure does have spring-loaded fists. Although they are locked in place, they don't actually launch off the body. And his two shoulder weapons, called Harkins, are removable. And there are some staffs that you can attach them to, so he can wield them as weapons. That's it for this edition of Thrift Box, and a look at some of my favorite flying saucers from toys, movies, and television. What are your favorite flying saucers? Let me know in the comments below. Are you a Transformers person? Do you like Cosmos? Are you a kaiju fan that likes Gamera? Do you prefer the classic UFOs with little green men? Are you a fan of Lost in Space or Mars Attacks? And does anyone prefer the acronym UAP over UFO? I can't imagine anyone does. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
Out of time, coming to see all that they can find. Where to go, find fun. They go to the moon now, they've been to the sun. Please, please take me along. Now listen, from the future time, they came to see how the world used to be. But something went wrong inside, and they can't get off of this crazy ride. Please, please, someone help us. Oh, where are we going in the lost saucer? Somebody help us in the lost saucer.